Well, thank you for coming back. You're listening to the Human Resource right here in Cincinnati at ICRC-TV. This is going to be a fun topic. So we're just going to jump right in. So the question is, what happens when you've got 20, 25, 40 years of experience and you decide you want to make a job change? You know, if we go back to all the things that we learned in the pandemic, that great resignation was compiled of a number of reasons and a vast array of talent and people moving in different geographical areas as well as different industries. And my guest today is going to help us understand how to work with these individuals and how she has come up with a solution for both employee and employer on dealing with our most talented and really one of the highest valued assets a company can possibly have, and that's experience. So today, representing Bullseye Talent Solutions, I have Leslie Deshler in the studio. And Leslie, thank you so much, because you and I just met.
Yes.
But I loved your story.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I think that's really, really important for the individuals in this market especially to understand what you and Bullseye Talent Solutions offers. But also, I want my listeners and my viewers who are outside of the tri-state area here in Ohio and Indiana, Kentucky, to understand what they should be looking for.
Sure.
And the questions that they should be asking. So tell me what you do.
So Bullseye Talent Solutions is a staffing agency, and we specialize in working with, I'll say, seasoned professionals who have a lot of skills, a lot of experience, have worked in their career or in their field for 20, 30 plus years, but they're really, they're not ready to fully retire, but they're ready to start looking at what I call downsizing their career. So it's almost like creating a gig economy specifically for seasoned professionals. And what that looks like is basically someone who may have taken an early retirement or someone that retired but doesn't want to completely leave the workforce. They want to stay engaged. They want to keep contributing. They have a lot of experience and skills that they can bring to a company, but they want to cut back a little bit. They want to scale back. They want to be able to do either part-time work, contract work, make some good extra money, but take a step back from that full-time career that they spent the last 20, 30 years doing. And that can be a great benefit to employers because they have the experience and the talent. They don't necessarily need to replace that full-time paycheck, so they're just looking for supplemental income, and they're not necessarily looking for benefits. So it can be a win-win where an employer can use it as a supplemental staffing opportunity to bring in the talent and the skill set they need, but not have to, one, commit to a full-time employee or be able to, be able to get that experience at a more affordable rate. So there's a lot of opportunity. We know people are living longer. Retiring at 65 is not what it used to be, right? People are living much longer. They've got plenty of, due to advances in technology, due to better understanding of just wellness and taking care of themselves, they are living longer and they're wanting to work more. One, because it's important to stay engaged, and you need that additional income to help supplement your retirement. So there's a lot of win-wins. We see great opportunity, and I think we're used to thinking about retirement as you work, and then you just retire. It's really bridging that gap from full-time work to full-time retirement and finding the win-win for both employees and employers to be able to do that successfully.
Well, and that was a wonderful description. That was absolutely fabulous. But let's go from the employer side. What should an employer be asking themselves, or what should be the triggers for them to say, hey, wait a minute, maybe this is my solution to my workforce concerns?
Right. So I think some of the key questions are, how do we really think strategically about our full-time workforce and what that supplemental workforce need is? There's a model there. There's a solid model where you need your full-time, you need your committed full-time staff, but you have gaps to fill, or you have employees that are overburdened with what they have on their plate. How can you use a supplemental solution to help round out your staffing strategy? And the benefit is, is there a skill gap? Is there a specific skill we need? Do we need folks with more experience who can come in and be kind of those mentors for our newer up and coming leaders? And using, the age and the experience level to bridge that gap, to help bridge that gap for younger employees. So it's really how do we, and not every role requires full-time. You might just really need someone to come in and deliver a skill that you're missing or that you're lacking. A lot of times we bring in full-time folks and then we have them working in so many different directions, it's really hard for them to focus their time and attention in one specific area. So is there an opportunity to bring someone in who has the talent and the experience and the knowledge that you need to just focus on, one or two key aspects on a part-time basis, or if you're getting ready to launch a big project and you need someone to come in and help with that project on a temporary basis. Those are the types of questions that would lead you down the path of working with Bullseye and finding the right person who could come in and deliver that for you.
I've made it no secret. I just kind of cringe when people talk about putting people on the bus and that whole premise, because most of the companies that are listening to this show don't have the budget to do that. They're a bit more entrepreneurial.
Sure.
But as I'm going through this, if they had access to this kind of talent, ability,
Sure.
and expertise, they could still go out and seek out those kind of contracts, those contracts that are big, that want to say, do you have the bandwidth to handle this work?
Absolutely.
That would be such could they, oh, absolutely, here's my portfolio.
Sure.
And call them as they needed them, putting them on a statement of work. And your agency, when you said temp agency, are you just saying that they would stay employees that are on your
Well,
payroll?
potentially. I mean, ideally, we would bring the two together. So the employer could bring them on as a part-time employee or as a contractor.
Okay, so W-2.
So we would, yeah, so
Okay.
W-2, and we would be that resource to help facilitate that. So it's kind of matching the two. Depending on the situation, they could come in as an employee of Bullseye, but ideally what we're trying to do is help find employers the right person to bring in and have their own kind of supplemental staffing.
But at this real high level.
Exactly. And to your point, you can use this on a trial basis. Maybe you want to take on this great new contract. You don't necessarily want to go out and hire a bunch of full-time resources. So you could tap into, our database of talent to say, look, let's get these, couple of people up and running, get them up to speed, let's test it, let's make sure it's working, and then maybe you convert to full-time resources long-term, or you just use that flex talent to keep up with the demands that you have.
And what expertise? What are we talking about? Engineers, CPAs? What are we talking about?
So really, it can be really what we're focused on is anything depending on what the company needs. So it's professional services. It can be anything from, maybe you need fractional CFO, perhaps it's marketing expertise, HR expertise, operations. We are, really looking at it's the skill set and the talent that's coming together with the employer to say, this is the skill set that we need, and then we match that and we bring that together.
And tell me what you consider to be, what's the company standard in terms of being experienced?
Yeah, so we're looking at people with a minimum of 20 plus years in their field. And obviously that could fluctuate a little bit depending on the need, but we're targeting folks that are in that 20 plus years of experience in management, leadership, marketing, HR, any accounting, financial, any type of field like that. But it's usually someone that's been in the business for 20 plus years, and again, who's looking to kind of make that transition from full-time work into doing something more in the gig economy space for that older generation.
And do you have any personnel assessments or or anything like that, where you can better help the organization understand the fit, the
Yeah, so-
culture?
Exactly, yeah. So what we'll do is we'll go through an exercise of getting to know the company, what they're looking for, and then we'll talk to individuals that have the experience. We'll do kind of that almost a pre-screen interview meeting, make sure that they're going to be a fit with the culture before we would then encourage the hiring manager of the company to meet with them directly and make sure that they would be a fit for their organization.
And you don't just take care of this tri-state area, you have a partner in Boston.
I do, yes. So my partner and I work together. He is in the Boston, Massachusetts area. So right now, our target is really the Cincinnati metropolitan area, but really anywhere in Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana, and then up in the New England area. And long-term, we'd like to expand beyond that, but that's where we are right now.
But are those remote workers can contact for employers here in this market, or is it workers in this market that are looking to get placed elsewhere?
So it could be either. It could be, both. It really depends on what the employer's need is. If you're open to remote, then obviously that opens up your opportunity to a greater number of qualified candidates. If you're looking for someone that, has to come into an office or be physically present, maybe in a hybrid type situation, then we would make sure that the candidate base we're screening and that we're bringing to you would be folks in the local area that could come into the office on occasion.
Okay. And you mentioned a very, very important service, especially with all the rumors of recession and different things going on. You can also work with employers when there's a downsizing?
Absolutely. To me, that, there's a great opportunity for employers, even when the economy's not great, that the market's not doing well, there's some questions around, where things are headed. You're hesitant to hire full-time right now. That's kind of not something you necessarily want to commit to. This gives you a great opportunity to bring someone in, but you don't have the long-term commitment. You bring them in, on a contract basis for a temporary period, and maybe that extends and you keep them on as you need them. But you can also scale back if you need to. So when you're dealing with a period of uncertainty, this gives you great flexibility to be able to bring someone in, help kind of get the work done, get the project set up, get the project up and running. But if you need to scale back, then you can do that without, pretty easily.
If an organization's going to scale back themselves, how can you help them?
Well, in a couple ways. One, if you're in a situation where maybe you're having to do some sort of voluntary layoff or even involuntary layoff, and you have talented individuals who are maybe getting close to retirement age, but need a resource where they could find some temporary or part-time work. I went through that with my company. We had a large voluntary buyout. I saw a ton of talent leave the workforce. And many of those folks are near retirement. They don't necessarily want to go back full time, but they would like to stay engaged. So if you're either a company in that position where you are doing some sort of voluntary buyout, we can step in and help those folks find what might be that great transition for them from that full-time work into full-time retirement. We can also, if you are looking for a specific industry or if you're looking for certain knowledge, those folks who are leaving the workforce who are interested in staying engaged, we can connect with them, and it's a great way for folks in other competitors to come in and bring in talent from maybe another organization in a similar field and leverage that talent on a part-time basis to help improve or help with operations at your company.
So many individuals who have been with their employer for long periods of time, their resumes are not updated. They're not privy or aware of all. Do you help them with that?
We don't currently help them with resume service, although it is something we would be looking to add potentially, but we have resources that we can refer them to. So there are resources in the area and others that if we look at their resume and feel like it needs some updating, we would encourage them to go to a resume expert to update their LinkedIn profile to make sure that they have all of that information updated so it reflects as best as it can what they can bring to the table.
And are you paid by the employee or the employer?
We would be paid by the employer. So we would work with the employer either as, if it's a staffing agency type arrangement where we would have our rate that we would pay the employee, and then we would have our markup that we would get from the employer.
Yeah.
Or we would just have a finder's fee that we would charge the employer once that person got on board, and we
That's
would-
typical.
Exactly. So
That's-
it's very
that's not
typical type
anything- yeah.
staffing agency.
Not out of the
setup.
traditional at all. And whether they're an employee or an employer, how do they reach you? How do they find out more?
Absolutely. So our website is bullseyetalentsolutions.com. So you can go to bullseyetalentsolutions.com. You can also email me, which is leslie@bullseyetalentsolutions.com. So you can reach us either way, and would love to connect if you have an interest in learning more.
Or just connect it with the show. You can call the studio. We will get you her information if you want to talk to her and her team. But this is really valuable, and it's helping
Awesome.
so many people, both on the employment side as well as the employee. And this country's got tremendous talent, and we don't want it to go to waste.
Absolutely. And I think in the future it's going to be even more important. So we're thrilled to be here.
Leslie, thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank
Appreciate
you,
it.
thank you. All right. Now you know, because you've been listening to the Human Resource. Thank you.